Okay, assuming you can see my screen. So hey everyone, thank you so much for joining today's session. It's episode 17 of Path to Code, very few left. And in the last 17 weeks, we have started from the basics of Salesforce, what is Apex, how to write a code, how to use a Visual Studio. We also talked about REST integration, WSDL integration, right? We talked about basics of HTML, basic of JavaScript. Last week, Jigar talked about basics of Lightning Web Component. So you might have already seen that in order to start coding in the Lightning Web Component, you need to have some basic knowledge about HTML, JavaScript, and of course Apex. So today's session, we are going to go one step ahead, and we are going to talk about how can we communicate between two Lightning component, how the data can be passed, okay, and what are the different scenarios where on how we can communicate using event. So like I said, today's episode 17, events in Lightning Web Components. My name is Jitendra Jha. I'm a Salesforce MVP, Senior Technical Architect in IBM. You can follow me on my Twitter handle, which is Jitendra Jha. So today's agenda is, I will say, full packed demo, or in fact, we would be working together on a code, complete hands-on. I will talk about Salesforce Playground, and I would be covering two scenarios. One scenario would be communication between two Lightning Web components, which are parent and child. And another scenario, if time permits, I would also be talking about how the communication between two sibling components can be happening, followed by Q&A. Some rules, please mute your mic, keep adding your questions on group chat. Feel free to add any question. Once I get some time, I will go back and I will review those questions. And most probably questions would be answered in the last 15 minutes. So that's it for today's slide. Now everything is going to be a working demo today. So let's see what we are going to do here. So this is the Salesforce Playground. As we all know, right? If we need to write something in Salesforce, we have to first go ahead and create a developer org, and then only you can work in the Salesforce. However, I will say Salesforce Playground or Lightning Playground is kind of game changing. You can directly navigate on this URL. So I'm pinging this URL in chat, and everybody can go ahead and try to click on this URL. You can start writing on the Playground for the Lightning Web Component without logging into the Salesforce. You don't even need an access to the Salesforce account. So that's something really great and game changing. So what I'm going to do now is, give me just 1 minute. Okay. So I will start with first demo, and let me create a component. So first let's see how we can create Lightning Web Component here. So you have to click on this icon which says create directory, and I will name my component as container. Okay. And app is by default Lightning component created. We really don't need an app, right? And then what I will do is, give me 1 minute. Perfect. So in a container, I will create a two file. So one file I will say container.html, and another file I will say container.javascript. Make sure they have same name. And in container.javascript, like we saw last week, I will say we have to import from LWC module. So this is the module provided by Salesforce, and I want to so I'm going to create a custom Lightning component. So I will say Lightning element, and then we need a track module. and API we may need, we may not need, but I will still add API here. You can go on app.js also, and you can simply copy paste these, that will also work. So I will go ahead and I will copy paste this statement which is export default class. Now instead of app, I will use my component name, which is container. And then in the container.html, you have to start your component with template. I will start with, and here I will say hello world. Now, right now you see on the right side, this is live. Whatever you are changing, it will reflect here. The reason it is not reflecting our component is by default Salesforce using app component. We need our container. So I will say import app from container, and that's it. As you can see, the preview is already here. You really don't need any app, so just delete it and save it. So now once I save it, this URL got generated. Everybody on the call, let me ping this URL in our chat. 1 minute. Okay. So you can keep using this URL. And if you want, you can keep, so every time I click on save button, so check. So I already on the version number 1. If I go back on container, I say hello world 2. And if I save, you see the URL changed to 2. So even though I have shared a URL with all of you, which is in URL, you can see at the end it's a 1. It would keep changing every time I click on save. So that's how, if you want to create some cool component, show it to your boss, show it to your colleague, right? They don't need a Salesforce org. All you have to do is go on Playground. Just like any JS Bean or JavaScript playground we have on the internet, similar kind of the playground Salesforce has provided us, so that all our demos and examples should be easy to share. So that's how easy it is. So today's session is completely on the playground. We are completely going to use this one. Okay. So here is what I'm going to do today. So if I go on my container.html again here, what I will say is I will use a header element. You can use a header element, or we can h1, h2, that's fine. And I will say some class as we are, okay, I will not confuse all of you. So simple header, and I will say select a bike. So what we are going to do today is we are going to show a list of bikes here. Okay. But in my opinion, instead of list of bike, let's say I am going to create a lightning component, and name of the lightning component is style. HTML component is style.html, and I will say style.javascript. I need a data to play with. One thing to do it, I will connect Salesforce. I will write an Apex class. I will get the data, or for the simplicity, what I will do is I will create another lightning component named data, and I already have data with me. So I'm going to use the same one. I will create data.java. So in this JavaScript, all I'm going to do is just define a JSON. So this is how it looks like. I'm saying that, okay, I'm going to export a bike. Okay, and bike is going to have some information like the API name, child relationship, fields. We really don't need each and everything, but this is how the JSON is. I think in 3rd or 4th session, we saw that JSON is nothing but the key value pair. So this is the ready-made JSON I'm going to use. The important thing in this JSON is I have the URL of the bikes. So if I click here, let me see if I can copy. So right now I am not able to copy it. That's fine. We are going to come back here. So this is data.js. So what I'm going to do on the tile.html is, first I have to, same like we did here, I'm going to define tile class here. Okay. And in the tiled class, so basically track means you are going to declare a variable which is a private to the component, and API means you are going to declare a variable which can be accessed by some other component. So what I'm saying is I want to declare a variable named product, and this product is going to show me so here, so let's assume somebody is going to set up the product. I'm going in my tile.html. I will start with my template again. I am going to create a div again. Div tag is just to manage all my components, but really nothing is going to display here. And in div, all I'm going to do is, again, I will say div and as we saw in our JS, let's assume that product is going to be set by something external. So assuming that product has a value, you know, if we want to access product, it has to be curly bracket, and I'm saying product dot. So if we go in our data.js, if you see, we have fields, and then fields has a different value. We have, so what I'm looking for is on field, we should be having something as a name. What I can do is, let me search online JSON viewer. It would be easier to see. Format. So now as you can see, these are the field. We have various field, we have ID, and we have field name, and I'm interested in value. So how I'm going to access is, I'm going to say fields dot name dot value. That is going to be my path. If I go back here on my tile.html, I will say product dot fields dot name dot value. So right now, let's assume that's all tile is going to do. Now we have, as we can see, we have multiple fields here. So I'm going to create one more lightning component, and let's assume that the name of the lightning component is nothing but list. Now you would be able to see the output. What I'm trying to do here is, so we have list.html, and then we have list.javascript. Again, it's a JavaScript. So what I will do is, I will do similar thing here, and I will name this component as list. And at the moment, let's remove it. Now, again, HTML has to start with template. I'm going to join all these components slowly so that we will know what I'm trying to do here. So now in list.html, what I'm going to do is, again, so I want a for loop. So you can write a for loop in Lightning component, and I can write a for loop like template. And before going on the for loop, let me show you something what I'm going to do. So we have a data here, data.js. I will do is, I will import that data, saying list of data is bikes. That's what we named it from. So if you want to refer any lightning web component in lightning web component, you have to say c : lightning web component name, which is data, and that has to be in single quote. So if you go in the c.data.js, you see our variable name is bike. We want this bike in our another lightning component, which is list, and we got it here. Now what we are going to do is, we are going to declare a variable again, and we will say, let's assign bikes in that same variable, and we are going to handle, let's say, okay, we will do this later. So that's all. We got a bike is in this variable. Let's iterate through bikes. So in order to iterate through bike, we will use a for loop. for loop can be written in Salesforce is like this. For each, now we have to tell Salesforce that, okay, where the for loop is. And we just declared a variable saying bikes. And every item in that for loop would be known as, let's say, B. Now, this is the lightning component list.html. Now in main.js, we are using a container. Let's go in the container HTML and refer this list component. So list component is c:list and close this. Now, as you can see, it started appearing here. Now the container component has a list. If I go on the list, I will say just an example, hello. So you can see hello is started appearing. Now I am writing a for loop, and let's say I say hi. Now as you can see, there are how many elements? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For every element hi printed. I don't want really hi. All I need is a bike name. So in order to access the bike name, I have to say something like b dot let's say fields dot, we saw here in field we have name and then we have value. Fields dot, then we have name and then we have value. And let's assume we need on the new line every time, break. So now you see, wait, what happened? Okay. So it seems that in template, all I need to do is now is refer a tile. The tile was incomplete. So what I'm going to do is for every these bikes, because this is not really a nice UI, in order to render this in a nice UI, I have to create I have to use a tile element. So in the tile element, first of all, we have a product already. So I will say c:tile. Let's close this tile here. Okay. And let's see why it is failing. If we go in the tile, let's try to debug why it failed. So in the tile.html, we have product. So actually this is the API name product. We have to set up a product. So we will go in the list.html again. And this time we are going to say product is nothing but B itself. Let's see. What did I miss here? So if I'm here, I already said product, which is an API. And if I go on list.html, .js, okay, what if I change? Okay. Dot, let's have a field. There is a field name. Where are the fields? Field. I don't even need a field actually. Okay, field.id.value. So I will say field.id.value. So it seems it is working. Select a bike. It is not giving me an error at least. So let me explain you what exactly is. So key is kind of the primary key. So what is happening is for every bike, we are kind of populating our child component, which is a tile. Now we are populating the child component and those all components are kind of the duplicate. So using the key, it gives a unique ID to all my component to avoid any runtime error like we were facing right now. So if I don't give key in my for loop, the C tile gets created multiple times with the multiple IDs. Now in this case, at least IDs are not multiple. So let's go on the tile and let's do something. So as we can see, why the thing is coming here. Let's see. So product we already assigned, right? And fields dot, okay, I think ID is capital, ID and V is small, and product is already assigned. If I assign, let's say, same here. Y B dot. Okay. Let me see if it is making any difference. Anyways, let me roll back everything and let's save this so that my work would not be gone. As you can see, my edit version is number 6 now. And so at least the H1 part is working. If I get a C tile key, oh, my spelling. So everything looks good. As we can see now, if I go on my tile now, as you can see, the value by bike values are appearing. That's a great. Now let's do one thing. Let's show image so that you will see actually how the things look like, and then it would be a little bit interesting now. All I have to do now is I have to print an image, and the source for image is going to come from SRC is going to come from, in fact, we don't need this. On each product, let's see, on each product, we have a picture URL dot value. So we have fields dot picture URL dot value. As you can see on the right hand side, now I get a nice UI and everything. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to encapsulate all this in the anchor tag. So I will have anchor tag href. In fact, I don't need that. Like this. So everything is in anchor tag, and what I'm saying is on click of this, let's do something. So I will say on click of the images, we have to perform some operations. I will say title click. So if someone click here or if someone clicks here, something has to happen, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to create one more lightning component, lightning web component, and I'm going to say, okay, actually folder. I'm going to say, let's say detail. So as we can see, our lightning components are getting a good shape here. It seems I don't need image, and I will save, otherwise all my hard works will be gone. So I'm creating a detail lightning component .html, and then I need detail .javascript, and like we have already list, I will just copy paste as it is in the detail.js. I will say this is detail lightning component, right? I don't know yet I'm going to use the data or not, that's fine. And in the detail lightning component, all I'm going to say in template is I am detail. Let's say this is what I'm going to show. Now all I want is, so if I have a main container, so in container we have a list, so this component is list. I'm going to display detail here. So I'm going to say detail. And let's divide our screen into the two part. What I will do is I will say this as my one div. I will say class equals to row, and in that div I will have two div again, and I will say class equals to, so this is a CSS which we covered. And the advantage of class, what I'm trying to do is, let me show you here. So I will say column 1, as you can see at the top here. So everything is real. Whatever changes I'm doing here, it's appearing here. Now what I want is column 1 and column 2 in the same. So I have a class as a row. In the container, I will create one more file saying container.css. And in the CSS for row, I am going to say, okay, let's set width as 100%. So that is good. And then I'm saying in my HTML that, okay, there are column, which is also class. So I'm saying class has to be referred using dot. So I'm saying dot column, and I'm saying let's set up width as 50%. And let's have float property as a left. So now as you can see, column 1 and column 2. Now what I want to do here is, I don't want column to be equally separate. So I will say column 1 and I will say column 2. I will go in my CSS. I will say column 1 should be 80% and column 2 should be 20%. So this is what I'm planning to do. Now all I will do is I will get all these lists and I will put this list in place of column 1. Now you can see this is column 1, and in column 2 I am going to have a detail here. Okay. Now what I want to do is, if I click on this cycle, the detail about this cycle should be appearing here. I will go back on CSS. I still think it is not right proportion, so I will say 70-30. Now I think it is good. So what we will do is, let's work on the detail.html now, because detail.html going to need some work here. So in the detail.html, let's assume that we are going to get some information. So detail.html, I will go on the JavaScript. Now let's assume that we are going to get the data. We want to have a private property which only this component can access. I will say product. Okay. And let's assume that there is going to be one more variable, which is a product ID. By default, let's say nothing is here. Okay. Now what I'm going to do for the time moment, hard coded, is this dot product equals to, I will use bikes. Let's assume, so bike is array. If you observe here, bike is in array. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to just pick the first bike, 0, so that I will have some information here. Actually, what I have to do here is, let's see if I can do something like this directly here. And if I go on my detail.html, let's see if I can access product or not. If I say product dot, what are the values we have? If I go here on the product, let's say we have a category, field category mountain. So if I do something like category fields And then if I go on category, and what is there? Category, display value. Perfect. So as you can see on the right hand side, display value is coming as a mountain. This is exactly what I want. So what I'm going to do is I will slowly start working on this detail component first of all. So what I will do first, I need is product dot fields dot in field, there are field name, and I will say value. So this is the first thing we need. So as you can see, x1, let's assume that I clicked on the x1 information would be displayed in the lightning web component. Let's display the price. So I will say here price can be displayed as product, again fields, again let's see the price. So where is the price? ms. Okay, this is the field, and then it's a display value dot, I will say display value. So as you can see, the price started appearing here. So it's a name. We don't really need this one. So name is there, price is there. We need a little bit description. So the description, again, I will just copy paste this. Let's see if we have any field for the description here. Okay, my bad. Let's wait. Okay, now I can move. So description here. Okay, so we have a description. We will use that description. And in the description, we have value. So as you can see, a durable e-bike, and let's have the brake here. For some reason, I don't know why the brake is not working. If I do div tag like this. Okay. Okay. Seems it's not liking brake. Let me see if paragraph will work. Okay, seems paragraph is working. So if paragraph is working, I can have a description in the new line. So as you can see, durable e-bike with good look. Now let's have the image also, and I can have img again. And we are already displaying img in our tile. So I will just copy that same actually from here. I will go on detail.html. I will copy here. So as you can see, the small image is appearing. Let's assume I clicked here. Small image is appearing here. That's all we want, right? Now, what we want is the information, right? Like this mountain bike, material level in the category. So category is already here. Let's duplicate. Let me duplicate this one. I need to see the syntax of one component, which is a lightning. So you can see everything is here, right? I need to see the syntax of this one, how the lightning badge is used. So lightning badge. What I will do now is, as keep seeing, right, how it's changing on my right hand side here. So I'm using sorry, let me here. I'm using the lightning badge, and label, I will use something like this. The lightning badge, this syntax is not right. have to use okay. So as you can see, it's a small, nice rounded corner component is appearing here. That's what I need, and I need a space there. So as you can see here, mountain is appearing, and I will just copy this. And there are total three field which I need. So there is one is category, one is, let me close this. One is category, we already used it. One is material that we can use, and maybe one level we can use. So let's see. So instead, now the category is here. I will use level underscore C. So as you can see, eraser is appearing there, but it is going beyond the change, right, which I did. I can work on that later one. And the next I have to use category. I have to use, let's assume it's a material. So see, so everything is there. Okay, it's going beyond that line. What I will do is we'll do something like this. Okay, not that great, but at least it is working. So till now what we have done, right, let's summarize. We have created a container, we have a list component, and then we have a detail component. Now the list component, this component again has a tile component, which in detail displaying name of the bike, and it is showing the image. Now what we have to do is, right now it's hard coded. If I click on X2, this component needs to see. If I click on this cycle, this detail should be changed. This is our actual agenda. So let's see how we can do. So the first thing is, what should happen if I click here? So let's identify which component it is. This component is in the list component. We have a tile component. So let's go on the tile component. Where is the tile component? And then the tile component, let's go on the JavaScript. So what basically we have to do is we have to define an event or method. So what I'm going to do is I will say let's say title click. And here I will say I'm going to define a constant. Let's say its name is event, and it is nothing but new custom event. Okay, and the name of the custom event, we can give any name. I will say title click, and here we have to write an anonymous function. In the anonymous function, I'm going to pass detail, and this detail would be nothing but this keyword, and we have a product defined on the line number 5, and on this product we are going to pass field id, fields.id.value. So once this is done, all we have to do now is dispatch it. So I will say this. So we have to raise the event. So now this is the time we are saying that, okay, we are going to create a custom event. Name of the custom event is title click, and that title click event is going to pass the detail, and we are going to just dispatch that event. And again, this is all HTML. So that's it. So now let's see how this is going to be handled. So what we are saying is, if anybody clicks, so we already have a title click. If anybody is clicking on this title click should be executed. Now the question is, how do I know if it is getting executed or not? So for the debugging purpose, I'm saying console.log, and I will say I got clicked. So let's see if this is working. I will inspect this, and we will go slowly. So if I go on console, Let me clear everything. So if I click here, you can see I got click. It's completely showing, it's saying invalid event type, title, click. Any warning? Why? Okay, let me see if it is making any change. If I clear console, so okay, maybe because of case title click C was capital, that was the reason it was giving me warning. But again, it was warning. I can have a click as a capital also. That's fine. So basically, what just happened? Anybody is clicking on the title. I'm going to set up the detail. Now, how the event works in Salesforce or the Lightning is event propagates from child to parent. So tile is the child and the parent of tile is list. So if I go on the list.html where I have the tile used, so this is where, so what I can do is I will say if, just like any, I will say on title click, I am going to handle the event. So I'm saying handle title click. So this method now I have to create in list.html. So I'm here and I'm saying let's create here. Now I'm going to get an event. So let's keep an event. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to propagate this event. So I will create one new event on the basis of this event. Same exactly like we did. So I will say constant, let's say event 2, and I will say new custom event, and this time I'm going to say the name of the event is product selected, or I will say bike selected. And on the bike selected, what do we need to do is, okay, it already came. I have to say, again, I will same set detail event I'm already getting in the parameter. I will pass same detail. So now I'm propagating. Okay, what happened? Yeah, I don't need semicolon here. And then I will again say same way, this dot dispatch event. Perfect. So what happened is I clicked on this one, event went to the list component got that event, and list component is going to use that event, which is a bike selected. So let's see, what do we have here? So parent of the list component, in our case, let's see, where is the list? So list components parent is container. Let's have the bike selected here. So I go on the container, this is the list. And now all I'm going to say here is on bike selected event, I have to call a method, and I can say that the method name is handle bike selected. So I have this method. Let's go here. Now this JavaScript is completely blank, so we can write anything here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write handler. Now this is again event. So I will say EVT. Now what I will do is I will create a private property saying track selected bike ID, and I will set this value here. Now in this event we already getting EVT dot detail is our bike ID. Now we are going to use this bike ID, and let's go on the detail. So if we go on the detail, we have exposed a product here. let's see what change we need here. So the product is already here. All we have to have is the, so let's create a method saying set product ID. Okay, do one thing. I will come back here again. So let's go back on our container. So in the container, we handle the bike event. We are saying selected bike is here. Now what we will do is, let's go on our detail.html. Detail.html, we have product ID. Okay. So in the detail here, what we can do is our variable name is selected bike ID. Let's confirm again. Selected bike ID, perfect. Now we are going to set up a property name product ID equals to in the detail this time, and let's set up a product ID here. So if I go on the detail.html, if I go on the detail.js, we have to, again, let's set first product ID. That's what we declared, and this product ID is going to get a value, and all we are saying is this dot underscore product ID equals to whatever the value we have passed there. And then we are saying this so right now this product is hard coded, right? We will say, and this is interesting, last time in the basics of JavaScript we discussed arrow function, and we discussed about why the arrow functions are better and why we should use it. Let's use the arrow function in the JavaScript again. So this dot product equals to, we already have bikes on the line number 2. So we will say in the bikes, let's find, okay, and we are going to pass a parameter which is bike and arrow function. What we are going to do here is if bike dot fills dot id dot value, so it is going to iterate through all the value. If those value are equals to the same value which we are getting, okay, so once that is done, so this is all we did is just a set product ID, and if anyone need, we can have API get. Okay, so let's get the product ID. So we have the setter, we can have a product ID getter as well, and all we have to do is return this. Whatever we are setting here, we are returning here. And now in the track product, I will just remove this because this was hard coded. And we have everything. Let's save this and let's go slowly. So before I'm going to work on this one, let me see. And again, you guys can just copy paste this URL, the same URL which I have provided you. My version is 10. If you save it, it will become 11 or 12, and you can also start working on this one. So all we have to do now is, let me roll back. So it stopped working. So we had a detail. Let me go back on the detail.html, and in the detail we do have a product. Okay, what exactly stopped working? If we remove this, let me see. Let's inspect this. Okay, it's clear console. If we click here, fail to execute dispatch. Okay, I think we might have renamed. So if we go on the, okay, let's control Z everything. We in the list, right? We said on title click, we are going to handle title click event. That's right. And on handle title click, what we did is we raised a new event named as a bike selected. So this is fine. And if we go on the container, let's see if we got on a bike selected. Yes, we got a bike selected, and we are setting actually the product ID on the detail. So handle bike selected, if we go here on the handle bike selected, we are setting this selected bike ID. The selected bike ID is going in the detail as a product ID. And if we go on our detail, what I can do is let's have it as a PID. It failed, that's fine, we will fix it. If we go back in our detail.html, everything was working fine. What we can do here is we can define our API. API is public property, saying PID equals to let's say undefined at the moment. Let's see if that changed. No, pod ID. I'm doing this. Detail.html. Just failed. Save. Detail JavaScript.
Jitendra,
Yeah.
I don't know if I saw something on the dispatch event where you defined event 2. Remember where you defined event 1 and event 2.
Right.
So should it be dispatch event 2 or?
Oh, right. So that you are correct. So event 2 we created. That's sweet. And I think that is the reason we were getting the error at the bottom that your dispatch event is already there. If I clear the console now. Okay, so that is the right. Good point. So that issue is resolved, but I think there is one issue in my detail.html, right? Something I messed up. Let me go back. Or what I can do is let me go back on 10. So see this, that's the one of the beauty of the playground. I can go back. All I have to do is just keep clicking right on my saves. So on 10 I am already there. At least it is working. If I go back on my inspect, I should be getting the same error which you are saying, that dispatch event is already dispatched, so I should not do that. So what I will do is I will go on the list.js and I will use event 2 this time. So is it working? Sweet, started working. Thank you, man. So that was a small mistake I had. Thank you so much. So team, here is, if we can see right now, huge thanks to audience who helped me to click. So I'm clicking on this lightning component. It's blue. I'm clicking on this black cycle. As you can see, it changed. And then I'm clicking on the green cycle, it is changing. So basically, let's try to summarize what exactly we did. So we have created a container. On the container, we created a list of bicycle. If we go on the list, List again has, so each cycle is a component. So if I go back on, let's say, tile.html, and if I make any change, you can see it's changing here instantly. So that's the advantage of dividing your component is as small component as possible. In fact, HTML itself, so this anchor tag, div tag, img tag, these are all components, and component can act different ways. So for an example, div tag is not being rendered. You cannot see anything on your screen if something is in div tag. The only reason we need div tag is the formatting purpose, some CSS purpose. Then anchor tag is just to show you the link, which is visible on the screen, unlike div tag. So that's what we did. So let's wrap up how clicking on this is creating an event. So what I did is on tile. So on click event, we are calling a JavaScript method title click. If we go on the tile, if we click on the title click, we can see we are raising a new event by using a new keyword, new custom event. We have to give the name of the event. It can be anything. We did saw that if we use something other than the smaller letter, lowercase HTML browser gives an error. So as a best practice, always has a event name as a small case. And then all we are doing is we are passing the detail. Now we do have this JSON ready. We were referring this JSON. An advantage of having the JSON is we don't have to write an Apex. And if we don't have to write an Apex, we can use a playground for all the work which we are doing. I'm passing the detail. We are dispatching it. Console.log again. It is not visible on the screen, but if you right click anywhere, say inspect, go on the console, and here you can see, okay, if I click here, I got clicked. So this is how it is being displayed. I might have some error somewhere. So that's the tile component, then that's the list component. So once I click on this one, the parent component of the tile is list. So on the list, again, I'm saying if this event is fired. So on title click is the custom event we just created. It is saying that fire the handle title click event. So if you go on the JavaScript, even in handle title click, we are exactly doing the same like the previously. This time we are generating a new event, name as a bike selected, and we are passing detail again to the event 2, and we are now dispatching event 2. Last 5 or 10 minutes we spent because instead of event to dispatching, we dispatched event, which is kind of the infinite loop. That's why we were getting an error. So once we fire the event, if you go on the container, this is what the event we just generated. So we generated 2 events. We generated event from bike, we generated event from the list. Now on the what we are doing is, if we get an event, we are setting a variable on handle bike selection event. So if you go on handle bike selection event, the selected bike ID we are getting, and we are passing this selected bike ID on another lightning web component, which is a detail lightning web component. And using that ID, we are iterating through every JSON. And how we are iterating? We are iterating using dot find method, which is a standard JavaScript find method, and it is checking if the value is matched, then return it, otherwise it will keep iterating, and that's it. So basically what we learned right today is how we can handle event between these 2-3 components, right? How we can communicate. Now one advantage, and this is a happy path scenario, but you will not get this happy path scenario always. What happened is you got all event from this was the parent component, and from the parent component you pass that event back to the another component, which is a sibling component. Now there is another pub-sub model as well. What I will do is I will quickly show you. I already have a code written with me. Let me share that code with all of you quickly. Should not take more than 2 minutes to explain. And you can go ahead and you can play with this playground. And let me send this code to all of you. So I see Yuvraj corrected me. Thank you so much, Yuvraj. So now what is happening is I have a vehicle component. So this part we already did. I am clicking on this is model 3 lightning web component. All the web component are here. It is generating event to the Tesla, and the Tesla is generating event to the vehicle. Now let's say you have another lightning component, which is a Honda component, and these two components are sibling to each other. The another way to handle is using PubSub model. So this JavaScript is actually provided by let me see, a guy named Vamsi. He has a website 021.com. So what he has done is all you have to do is just import pubsub.js. Okay, and I have imported pub.js in honda.js, as you can see here. And in the connected callback method, it is executed every time when the component gets created, and there we are firing it. So event fire, we are getting the data. So let me show you the demo here. I click on the model 3, it went to Tesla. Model 3 clicked, it says event started in Tesla, and the same event information is passed to the another event. So you all can have a look on this lightning web component. It's almost similar, but this is the better way to handle if you have so many other lightning web components where you need a communication. So that's all for today. I think we are 2 minutes over, but I'm ready to take any question if anybody have anything. Any feedback, anything, anyone? So these two, you can save these two URL, and you can go ahead, you can change it, you can save it, and you will have your own version here.
Jitendra, one quick question. Suman here. In the first example, where you instead of using two component style and list, can you use just one? Is that not possible because it's essentially the same list, right?
Yeah, it is possible. Very good question. So here, right, in this case you are saying, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. So what I can do, very good point. What I can do is I can copy this. Okay, let me go on the list. Very good point. And I can do something like this. Let me do. So here is the problem, Yuvraj, right? And that is the reason I created it. So somehow if I do the nesting of template, it is not allowing me to have any HTML template. Okay. It is giving me an error. That is the reason I created another lightning web component which actually worked. So if I remove this, it will work. This was allowing it. But if I'm not using this, so even I think even if I use this one, right, this should work. Let me see. Yeah, this should work. And let's see, b dot, wait, okay. In this case, right, if I use b, this. Yeah, Yuraj, I mean, I think it was not working for me. That was the reason I created another temp component. Even if I, let's say div tag, let's see if it is working. No. So as you can see, right, lightning web component is giving me an error. So it seems if you are using a template, there might be the set of lightning component which you can use. So in this case, the custom web lightning component is working, but the standards, in fact, HTML components are also not working. If I use p, no, it is not working.
Okay, no worries. Yeah.
Good question. Actually, I struggle with that one when I was preparing for the demo. Any other question? Yeah, so question from Jim, right? Can we download and upload in Playground? Yes, very good. So yeah, if I click on the download, as you can see, okay, if I click on the download, I will say keep, zip file gets generated, and the same way you see the upload button, you can upload in the Playground. Okay, anyone?
And if the data is, if we, what if we have the data in a custom object instead of JSON?
Good question. In that case, the playground will not work. I was not able, and that is the reason. If you see, we have this data dot JS. The only reason we have is we don't need to connect to the Apex or any custom object. Right? If we have a data, if you want an Apex, then I think you need to go to the developer org.
Right, but the idea of using the fields is by using controllers. How does that work?
So if the question is how to connect with Apex, that's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Perfect. So for the Apex, let me developer guide. There is a very, so there are 3 decorator available only, right? So 2 decorator we already saw. Okay, if I go in this reference, so okay, not even this one. So this key information is here, right? Why we need a key, that we saw in today. Now we have, okay, even before that, working with Salesforce data here, not right, call Apex method here. So basically how you need to do, right? How you need to, so let's assume that you have an Apex controller, contact controller, right? You have to flag it just like a lightning component or aura component. You have to say it's aura enable, cacheable true, right? And in your JavaScript here, what you have to do is you have to use something like this: Salesforce import. You can have any name you want. Salesforce Apex class name and the method name. That's the find contact. And there are 3 decorators only. Track we already saw, which is a private property. API we already saw, which is a public property. And then there is a wire. So you have to use a wire decorator saying, okay, find contact, call this method, and using what if there are parameters. So in this case, search key is the parameter. This is how you declare it, and whatever the value is going to be returned, it would be returned in the contact. Now in our case, it was a bike. In this case, it is contact. So it's exactly the similar. Now instead of using a bike, you are using contact, and you can refer all the data in that, because the data returned from Salesforce from custom object is in format of JSON itself. So you can use using the dot notation.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Good question. Okay, thank you so much, team, for joining. We would meet again next week, and your feedbacks and your comments are most welcome. Have a nice day, everyone. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you.